Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Echoes of Sunday podcast. I'm your host, Cody Bershing, and I'm joined once again by Logan Cook.
Hey, guys. We are very excited about our guest today. Some of you might know him.
Some of you might live with him, actually.
We have the famed Tutor Mortenson. And if you guys don't know what a tutor is, at MLC, we have these tutors. They are kind of like dorm supervisors, and they live in the dorms in much nicer apartments than the students. But
we've earned it.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have, for sure. But we're here with him to learn a little bit more about him and see what insights he has to share with us.
How you doing today, Tutor?
I'm doing well. I got a good night's sleep. I was able to sleep in a little bit, and I'm ready to go.
There you go. Are you much of a morning person, Tutor?
I want to be a morning person.
The coffee helps, huh?
The coffee does help, and I've always been pretty productive in the morning. But the problem, though, is with this job, sometimes the hours can be kind of late, so I've had to become more of a night person, in case weird things happen, or I just got to deal with something.
Do you care to elaborate?
We might later on.
Okay.
I know, for me, I'm not a morning person. I make every point possible to sleep in as much as possible. And we have like 7:30 classes. That's an option on campus. I have promised myself that I will never take another 7:30. So if that means that I have to wait like an extra 2 years at MLC to accomplish
2 years.
I'm willing to do that. But.
Crazy.
Seminary, you're going to have to get used to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right. You only go until like noon, right?
I forgot about that.
You have class 7:30 to noon, but you are done at noon, so that part's kind of nice.
That's nice, yeah.
But we like to start each podcast with the same question, and it's my favorite question that we get to ask, and it is, what is kind of your faith story, Tutor? What is your relationship with God been like throughout the years, and what's kind of brought you to MLC, and what's kind of led you on that journey?
Yeah, that's a good question. My faith has always been the most important thing in my life. I've always enjoyed reading the scriptures. I've always enjoyed learning about Jesus. I've always enjoyed learning about what we believe. I've always loved religion classes. I've always loved catechism class. I've always loved any type of theology class that I've been able to take. So I've always been kind of drawn towards Christianity, the Bible, and what we believe. I've always loved being in church. It was just something I loved. I loved being. I was one of those kids who in Sunday school or in a religion class who was always raising his hand and trying to answer questions or ask questions too, just because I loved learning about it. Mm-hmm. So I've always been kind of drawn towards my faith. It's just always been such an essential part of my life. And I say this now looking back too, it has just been such a big thing for me. My faith has definitely been forged through a lot of hardship and suffering. And that is something that I've really, really learned to appreciate. One of the reasons my faith is so important to me is because that was what I clung on to in some really, really difficult, not so good times. Yeah. So my parents are divorced. I'll be open about some personal things here. And they divorced when I was in 3rd grade. And that was a really, really profound thing for me as a child. I was devastated. That was something that I just I couldn't fathom actually happened. Because we were always at church every Sunday. I am thankful my parents raised me in the word very strongly. That was a big deal for us. But unfortunately, sin ruins good things. Sin causes havoc even amongst Christian people. I'm grateful for my parents, but unfortunately, they are still sinners as well. And unfortunately, sin ruined their marriage. So for me, that was a devastating thing. But I was thankful to know that even though my family had all these problems and strife when it came to this, I was a part of a family of believers and had a heavenly Father through which that wasn't an issue, to which I can cling to. And so for me, my faith became the thing that I just continued to cling on to. And I prayed all the more. I went to the scriptures all the more. But it wasn't just that. There were some other sad things that happened as well. So I'll be open about a chronic condition I have. So I have ulcerative colitis, which is, it's kind of like Crohn's disease, if you know what that is.
A little bit.
And I've had that since I've been in about 6th or 7th grade. And I think one of the reasons, now it's just something in my family history. We've always had issues. Colon cancer runs in the family. Crohn's disease runs in the family. I got colitis. I think it probably was triggered by the divorce in the sense of the stress that came with it. That's when I started to have all my issues with my gut. So that was one huge thing I ended up getting. The thing with colitis is it is manageable, but you do need to be on various medications for it. And it took a while to get to the right medication. So there was a lot of struggling years in between of figuring out which medication would work to get this under control. Times where I wasn't on the right one, or times it would be like under control, at least temporarily, then the medication would stop working, and I would have, you would call it a flare-up, where your colon's inflamed and not a fun time.
No.
I mean, you understand what has to happen.
Yeah.
I can laugh about it now. But no, there are several times throughout my life when I was a child, when I was in high school, and even when I was at MLC and at seminary, where this would flare up and it just would be not a great time. I would have to use the bathroom several times, lost a lot of weight in these times because I'm constantly going to the bathroom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of suffering in there, a lot of praying. Lord, what's going on? Why are you letting this happen? Some moments where I had to miss school because of it, just because it was so bad.
Wow.
The worst one happened my freshman year of high school. But anyway, during all of these times, it brought me closer to God, and it made me more reliant on God. And it just showed me I need God in my life. I need him to go to, because here I am. I could see my own weaknesses, my own frailties right in front of me.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I have a God who has delivered me from sin, delivered me from death, delivered me from the clutches of the devil. And I have a God who's going to deliver me from these things as well. And so these various moments brought me a lot closer to God. I really take to heart what Peter talks about in 1 Peter chapter 1, where he talks about your faith being forged and your faith being refined like gold.
That's what I was thinking of
suffering
this entire time, yeah.
And so I really appreciate the role that suffering plays in the life of a Christian. Now, there's other moments I can get into. We might talk about some other matters later, some other moments of sadness, bad breakups, other various things which brought me closer to God as well. But I could save those stories for later at some point. But nevertheless, my faith has been the most important thing in my life, forged through some of these sad moments, bringing me closer to God, making me more reliant on God. And so I really cherish the faith that God has given me. It is the most precious possession I have, and it has defined who I am. And I'm so thankful for that. And to that, all glory belongs to God.
Amen.
Yeah.
That the experience of having to try multiple medications and having it not work over and over again sounds incredibly frustrating and just draining. Can you explain what your mindset was through that?
Yeah, I can. As a kid, it was terrifying. Because it's just like, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Here I am, 12, 13-year-old. I'm sitting in a hospital with an IV in my arm. That's not usually the case when you're a 12, 13-year-old boy. And so it's kind of like, boy, what's going on? And so that's frustrating too, because it's like you look at your friends around you and you're just thinking like, this isn't something they're going through. Why is this happening to me? Or is something wrong with me? Is something wrong with my body? And again, you catastrophize. Obviously, there wasn't any risk of me dying or anything like this, but there is still that fear like, oh, what if this kills me?
Yeah, as a kid, that's really scary.
If it even goes just like wrong or something, or there's makes it worse, like that's what would be going through my head.
That was a frustrating thing. And then this was a good thing when it came to my prayer life, going to God in prayer about it, and then nothing's getting better. In fact, sometimes it's getting worse. And that was a kind of a wrestling with God moment too. Like, what are you doing? Why is nothing happening? Why is it getting worse? I keep going to you in prayer about it and nothing's happening. And so that was, a growing moment as well. But that I would say was the biggest thing, is just you look at the guys around you and you think they're not going through this. Is something wrong with me? What's up with this? I can't do all the same things they're doing because of this. Fun fact, because a lot of this happened when I was going through puberty. Thankfully, it didn't have an effect on my development when it came to things like that.
Yeah.
But one effect it did have, and this was a side effect of the medication, was my growth got stunted a little bit. So I actually should be a little bit taller.
How tall are you right now?
I'm like 5'9", which I'm fine with. I don't think that's a problem.
It's just so funny because we're both shorter than that.
What medication were we on?
I don't even know, man. Got robbed.
I think you kind of talked about it a little bit there about like the questions that you were asking God during that time. And I know you said how your faith life's always been the most important thing to you. Was there ever points that you remember just being like angry at God and just saying like, why is this happening to me? Like, maybe even during like the divorce as well when that was going on, were you angry at God? Did that cause you to maybe like lose some of that faith in him, or did that only make it stronger like in the here and now when it was going on as well?
It only made it stronger. And again, I give glory to God through this. I have been angry at God. I've been frustrated with God. I have never doubted God's existence, but I have at times doubted God's sovereignty, God's control, God's love, God's idea of what's going on. Let me tell you this moment. This is probably one of my most profound moments of faith, and it means a lot to me. And I'm so happy it happened. Freshman year here at MLC, I had a really bad flare-up with my colitis, almost as bad as the one I had when I was a freshman in high school. And again, I was on a medication that was super convenient. I didn't have to get an IV. It was like a shot. It was an injection I can make in my thigh. And that was super convenient. It was every 2 weeks, but it's convenient because it's just a shot. It only takes like 5 seconds compared to having to sit in a IV chair for 4 hours or something like that. Yeah. And unfortunately, it wasn't being effective. And I started to flare up, and this is during second semester freshman year. I was having a great year. It was fun. I got to meet so many cool people. It was awesome. I was loving it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this horrible thing is happening. And I don't necessarily want to tell people about it because it's a little bit embarrassing to say, I have to use the bathroom a bunch of times now. But some close friends knew about it. But anyway, there was that issue, and my parents had been divorced for a while at this point now, so it's like I'm used to. But there was some conflict between them that was going on. I'm not going to get into the details about it. Mm-hmm. When you have divorced parents, there's always conflict over custody and taxation and things like that. So it was something involving that. And both my parents, again, great people, love them, but stubbornness got the best of both of them, and they were both trying to get me to side with them in this issue. Yeah.
It's a lose-lose.
And they both were pitting me against the other two, which made it even worse. So I did not want to make a decision regarding that because it was, I love both you guys. I don't want to do that. And so that was really getting to me while I was here as well. And there was just one particular moment where I just remember I really just broke down. I would say I was at the weakest moment that my faith had ever been at. Where, again, not doubting God's existence. I was doubting God's love. Mm-hmm. And I was doubting, am I actually even saved? Because look what's going on right now. I don't know if God's really for me. And I actually was afraid, is God punishing me? Mm-hmm. Is he punishing me for sins of the past, sins that I know I struggle with? And so I had a moment at night where I couldn't sleep, and I was just terrified, thinking, if I die tonight, I'm going to be in hell. Wow. That's how low I was. And I actually woke my roommate up. And my roommate at the time, his name was Caleb Strutz. He was a high school buddy of mine. He's a pastor now. I woke him up. It was like, hey, I need to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, he was great with that. Well, the next day, I still felt the same way at night, and I ended up just, again, breaking down again. Caleb noticed it, and he and a couple other friends of mine came in. One of my close buddies who's at seminary now, he's a middler at the seminary. He was in my class here at MLC, but he had some years that he took off in between. His name's Andrew Fritz, and he's a guy who knows suffering well. He has cerebral palsy. He's been through a lot. So he's a close friend of mine. And a couple other friends. Ben Reckley, another good friend of mine, Austin Claflin. Ben's a pastor. Austin's a senior at seminary. I want to name drop them because I love these guys, and I want to give credit where credit is due. Mm-hmm. These four guys, and they brought in the tutor at that time. I never really talked to the tutors when I was a student, but they brought in the tutor at that time, Nate Wardell, great guy. They just came in my room and just talked to me. And I just told him everything. I was like, I don't think I'm saved. I think God is punishing me. I think I'm going to go to hell. And Tutor Wardell just kept pointing me to the gospel. Look at what Jesus did for you. This is how much he loves you. Stop looking at yourself, because you're not going to find any confidence in yourself. Look towards Christ. And they sat with me for a good hour and a half and just kept talking to me about this. And that's the moment where, even though I was a believer, where I really appreciated the gospel. And I was like, yeah, this is true, even for me. That Jesus Christ took my sins upon himself, died for them, rose from the dead, so that I could be saved. And that was the moment where I actually consider that the most pivotal moment in my faith, where that was probably I went from the lowest moment I could ever be at to one of the strongest, to the sense of this is real, this is true, I am saved, and God's going to help me get through these other things that are happening at this moment.
Praise God.
Yeah.
And praise be to God for that. That was only the power of the gospel that accomplished that. And at that moment, I have never had any doubts about the gospel. I've never had any doubts about this profession that I wanted to get into. I was like, I want to be a pastor, because I want to help people who are going through something like that get through that by pointing them to Jesus. Not because I'm going to help them, because he's going to help them. So that moment for me was a big one.
That's so powerful. Yeah. I've seen it in my own life, I guess, where you go through those lowest moments in your life, the lowest valleys, and then the highest mountaintops usually follow like right on the other side. And that's just, it never ceases to amaze me how profound that is and how often those two things usually coincide.
Do you mind if I actually, so funny enough, I learned about this later after this happened. There is a word that's used to describe this, but it's not a word that we have in English. It's a German word.
Oh, sweet.
It's called Anfechtung.
Yeah.
Anfechtung, again, we don't have any good English equivalent for it, is a word that just means absolute despair and dread and fear over your salvation and over everything going on. And I consider that was my Anfechtung moment, where I was just in absolute anguish over everything going on and fear over my eternal fate. But the good news is through that Anfechtung, God strengthens your faith. Through bringing you down and dragging you down in the mud and muck of everything going on, he refines your faith. Luther writes a lot about Anfechtung, because if there's anyone who knew what that was,
he went through that a lot.
Did. And so it was kind of, not to compare myself to him, but that was kind of my Anfechtung moment.
Yeah. That's pretty powerful stuff. We actually, in our German class, we translate a lot of Martin Luther's works, and we finished going through that section where he writes about Anfechtung the most. And Luther describes it, I believe. For him personally, it felt like God himself was literally against him. Like it was God was his enemy, punishing him, and it was him against God. And I can't even imagine what that must be like.
Terrifying feeling. Terrifying. Yeah. So when you were in the hospital as a 12, 13-year-old and your parents went through that divorce, what was getting you through that? Like, was there someone there, a mentor that you could rely on, or just faith?
It was really mainly faith. I did have people who I knew I could go to in these times, but it was really the power of faith that brought me through it. Prayer and devotion, knowing God is in control and he knows what he's doing. And I really credit, I've always had good friends throughout my life. And I'm really, really close to all the people who I am very grateful to call my friends. I've had some really good friends. And just them being people I could just hang out with and go and do things with was great in helping me get through all the things that were going on. But I also knew, too, I've had some great teachers and pastors throughout my life as well. And I had some good guys that I knew I could go to in some of these times. Teachers who knew my family really well and knew what I was going through. They were great.
I was wondering how, in those moments when you were being counseled by your tutors, by your friends, and they were showering the gospel on you, how has that, going through it, like on the receiving end of that, how has that affected how you now look at counseling yourself as a pastor?
That's a great question. For me, the big thing, and I still have to fight against it sometimes, is remembering I can't think of all the right answers. And I can't word spin everything to make you feel the way that I want you to feel. The best thing I could do is actually point you away from yourself and point you to Jesus and actually show you in the scriptures what it says. Because sometimes you get overconfident in yourself and you're thinking, if I just say this the right way, if I just spin this the right way, and those are usually the moments where I can tell nothing's happening. Or it's like, yeah, that didn't help. And then I have to remind myself, no, what are you doing? Point to Jesus. Point to what he did. Even point to specific portions of scripture and let the gospel do its work.
Take the burden off yourself, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've often heard that the worst thing you can say to people in counseling is that I know what you're going through. And I'm just interested, since you've had those moments of just absolute Anfechtung and just despair, would you agree with that? Or do you think that there's maybe some power in saying, hey, I've been in those low places, I know what you feel? I'm just curious on your thoughts on that.
I think there is. I don't bring it up to the people I counsel unless we're just having a good back and forth and I feel like it's necessary. Yeah, for me, it really does. That I do know what you're going through in the sense of I know that frustration. Where if someone's angry with God, I usually reveal the worst ones. Where if someone says, yeah, I'm mad at God, I said, yeah, I've been mad at God too. Or if someone says, I'm frustrated with God, I don't know what God's doing, I've said, yeah, I know what that feels like. I've had those moments before too. Or if someone even says like, man, I'm really doubting what God is doing, I've said, yeah, I've done that too.
Right, because I think those people think maybe the initial thought is that no one else is going through this or no one else, it's not good to get angry at God. Like, it's not normal. When you actually step into that with them and have that community, like, yeah, I've been there too. It's a normal part of being a follower of Jesus, I think.
That's what it is, being a sinner/saint in this sin-filled world and wrestling with the things and challenges that you got to go through. But I do think it makes it more effective and it helps because you can go to that place and remember when you were in a similar place and say, yeah, I know what it is. And you can actually look at them with a sincere
compassion.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, where Peter tells us in his gospel or his epistle that we're strangers in a foreign country, so we're not going to be in the most comfortable places. We're not going to have all these warm, fuzzy feelings. I mean, we're wanderers, so a lot of hardships go with that, I think, and it's just powerful how, I mean, God uses even the hardships and maybe especially uses the hardships and like the despair moments to really bring you closer to him. I think it's really cool and pretty powerful to see that, especially from us as students talking with our supervisor, our professor, and just seeing that if he can do that in your life, then I'm sure he can do that in our lives as well.
And he will. God knows what he's doing when he guides our lives, and it's going to look different for all of us. My story is different from other people's stories, but here's the thing. God did exactly what he needed to do, and he's going to keep doing exactly what he needs to do. There's going to be more suffering. You just got to expect it, and that's okay. That's just part of living as a Christian. Take up your cross and follow me. That's a verse that really has stuck with me.
That's powerful.
What does it mean to take up your cross? Because it's a nice idea, but when you actually have to do it, it's like, dang.
It's heavy.
Yeah. And that cross doesn't look the same for every person either.
No, it does not. No, it does not. What might not be hard for you to burden is difficult for someone else to burden. And what might be easy for them to bear is not easy for you to bear. So yeah, it's going to look different for everyone.
For me, that gives me a lot of compassion. I know the things that I struggle with, and then I look around at people and I'm like, wow, it doesn't seem like they're struggling with that at all. And then I get to know them more, like some close friends of mine. It's like, okay, I can be there for you in this way, and we can talk about anything, and we're going to be there for each other because we have an understanding that our hope is in not ourselves, but in our Savior.
Mm-hmm.
I think particularly with that idea of everybody carrying their own cross, for me, it gives me more patience with people, I think, because you never know what people are going through underneath the surface. Where, I mean, you said it yourself, you were going through like some terrible moments at your time at MLC, but not very many people knew about it. And of course, that's going to affect you. Of course, that's not going to allow you to be the best person you can be 100% of the time because you're dealing with all that. And if you're dealing with difficult people, if they seem like they're not getting you or they're not understanding you, then maybe try and understand them a little bit or try and take a step back and realize that you don't know what they're going through themselves.
No, and that's a good thing to do. This is a piece of practical advice that I've heard, but I think it applies even to the spiritual realm when it comes to this and it comes to counseling. And that is realize that the person you're talking to knows something that you don't. And go at it with that learning attitude. That the person, whoever you're talking to about whatever the matter might be, he or she knows something that you don't. He or she maybe even is an expert on something that you are not an expert in. So always listening to learn.
My mom always said that everyone's your superior in some way. And you can learn stuff from everybody. I think it's a really cool piece of advice. It's useful for everyone.
It's a good mindset.
I was curious, in your youth when you're going through all of that, was there ever a moment where you just landed on saying, I'm going to be a pastor? Was there like a switch that got flipped? Or do you not really remember there being a moment where you're like, I'm going to MLC to become a pastor?
I do remember these. So it's kind of funny about this. I, as a kid, a young kid, said when people would ask me, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be a pastor. And everyone in my family and teachers acknowledged that and said, yeah, you should do that. There's actually a funny story when I was really young, maybe 3 or 4 years old, that my family members in my extended family know about. My aunt, you know that green stole that I wear?
Yeah.
So my Aunt Cheryl, she sewed that for me. She made that for me. Okay. She's deeply religious, cares very much so about the ministry. She's formerly Catholic. She goes to an ELCA church, one of the more conservative ones, but she's a very devout Christian, and she cares a lot for the ministry. And she and I, we always have good banter back and forth about theology, so I always love talking to her. But anyway, she told me this story when I was a kid, when I was really young, that we were at, I don't know if it was like a funeral or something like that, for a relative. And I was young. I don't remember anything that happened, but apparently I was always drawn to the Jesus pictures.
Really?
And I would always just point at it and just be like, Jesus, you know? So I don't,
yes, sir.
And then it wasn't just her who told me this. Other cousins have told me about this. So as a young kid, I think that is what I wanted to do. But then as I got closer to high school, and in high school, I was thinking, I don't know, that's really what I want to do. And I want to do something else.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Lakeside Lutheran High School in Lake Mills, Wisconsin. So I was thinking about other things that I could do, but never could really nail down anything else. Teacher was always one of the things I love history. History has always just been something I've enjoyed talking about. I've enjoyed learning about. And so I was thinking, history teacher might be fun. So MLC was kind of on the radar. Yeah. But it was for a different track. Public speaking has been something I've always enjoyed doing. I have no fear going in front of a crowd.
You do always have really good presence when you do chapel.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I love being in front of people and talking. I did forensics throughout grade school and in high school, and just that was always a blast for me. I did plays and drama productions. That was always a blast for me. So being in front of a crowd has never been a problem. And public speaking has always been something that I've enjoyed doing. I was thinking about, okay, well, the skills I have and what I enjoy doing, what can I even do? And I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I was always interested in politics. Not as much anymore, thank goodness. But
when I was embarrassed about that.
Well, for me, it's just it's such a nasty world. Yeah. But as a high schooler, I got really into it. Because what happens when you're a high schooler is you get really passionate about certain things. So I was thinking, maybe I should get into that. And I feel like I had kind of the right mindset, but I also had some wrong mindsets here. Again, history lover, love public speaking, love looking at all these people throughout history who accomplished great things. And I was like, maybe I should get into something like politics. Maybe I can be a good leader. Maybe I can be someone who can cause good things to happen. And that was a mindset. But what else was the mindset? Are you just thinking you want to do this because you want to be known? Mm-hmm. Are you thinking you just want to do this so that people will say good things about you, so that people will praise you? And let's be honest, that was one of the motivations deep down. And I had to be honest about myself with that. And so I talked to wiser people than myself at Lakeside, pastors, teachers, one of the counselors there. And they pointed me towards pastoral ministry, which again had always been something I was considering, but had kind of suppressed. Another thing that helped too was the 2016 election was going on. This was my senior year of high school. And as you guys maybe remember, that was a pretty nasty election.
Yeah.
So that kind of turned me off towards that too. Like, yeah, I don't think I can survive in that world. If you even got far, which let's just be honest, as a Wells Lutheran, you're probably not going to get that far without compromising your integrity. There are some who can, but it's difficult. And I was like, yep, never mind. That's not something I want to get into. They pushed me towards pastoral ministry. And I was like, you know what? Maybe that's the thing I can do. And again, thinking about what I was good at and my personality and my skills, I was like, I think that's probably the best thing I can do to glorify God and serve my neighbor around me. You know, if I could even just be the instrument God uses to help one person get into eternal life, that would be worth it.
Yeah.
It was late my senior year, and I decided I'm going to go to MLC. I'm going to study to be a pastor. And I remember Pastor Clark Schultz, my homeroom teacher at Lakeside, gave me this huge hug and was just so grateful to hear that because he was really pushing for that.
Wow.
And then the experience your freshman year kind of just solidified that even more.
Oh, absolutely solidified it. And it wasn't just that, too. I mean, it was, despite those bad moments, I really enjoyed my freshman year.
Yeah.
That's where I really kind of felt like I became me, who I am now.
Yeah.
Just like getting more mature, getting more faithful, and growing in the faith. Went to MLC, never looked back on it. There was never a doubt in my mind, this is what I want to do. And now here I am doing it, and I love it.
Wow. Do you think that you would have decided to come to MLC if it wasn't for all the support and like encouragement that you got from people telling you that you'd be a really good pastor?
That's a good question. I think that certainly helped, but I was kind of leaning towards that decision because again, I was like, well, what can I really do with this? Yeah, actually, I'm going to change up my answer. No, I do think that encouragement helped a lot. Just hearing someone say like, yeah, you would be good at this. Because I mean, even though it's in your mind, if you're not hearing someone maybe give a little bit of approval towards it or a little bit of a push towards it, you might not actually do it. Because at that point, it's just a thought.
Right.
But I mean, having heard even as a kid, like, yeah, maybe you should get into the pastoral ministry. And I remember one of my pastors at my home church, St. Stephen's, who taught me catechism. You know, he was always kind of trying to encourage me to get into that as well. Because not trying to brag, but apparently I was like the first person in a long time in my church to actually get 100% completely in catechism.
Wow.
Not to brag.
And
Casually.
so yeah, he was just like, yeah, you should get into this. So
did you get like a picture like put up in like the catechism?
No, I didn't get a picture put up. He did. He shouted me out. He shouted me out on Facebook, which I didn't have. Obviously, I was an eighth grader.
That's so funny.
That's really cool.
I don't know if it was completely, but it was just 100% in the class. I probably had some things wrong, but because I know I didn't have every single memory work 100%. But
yeah,
we'll say it was 100%.
We'll say it's 100%. Yeah.
What did your parents think when you said you wanted to be a pastor?
They were very happy about it because they both wanted me to do it.
They did. Okay.
Yeah. Again, that was something they really wanted me to get into, and again, they know me well. They saw that as something I would be good at. And so they were very, very pleased to hear that.
That's really valuable. Having your parents' support in a decision like that can almost make or break it sometimes.
Yeah, and when I did decide that was what I wanted to do, they were just like, well, finally you came to that conclusion, you know.
Duh.
Yeah.
Like we all knew that.
I think that is kind of cool that, I mean, even though you said your parents are divorced and like obviously there's going to be some tension there, but it's cool that they still were in agreement on like what their son was very gifted and potentially being able to do. It's kind of cool that I don't know. That's just a special moment. I feel like was it special for you that both your parents, even though they were separated, agreed on that, or is it just kind of okay? Just I don't know. I'm curious on that.
No, it's kind of a thing I've thought about, which is all the problems that occurred. I'm very grateful for everything. The thing they did very well was they both instilled that faith is the most important thing, and going to church is the most important thing, and prioritizing your faith is vital. So that was something they instilled into all of us very, very well, despite all the problems that happened that caused the divorce.
You have siblings?
I do.
Okay.
I have 4 of them. I am number 4, by the way, so I'm one of the younger ones.
Okay.
But yeah, that was something they instilled into me, and I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, it is kind of profound. Like with all those issues, it was like, yeah, we want you to be a pastor. And they're both in agreement over that one.
That's cool.
I guess you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but how did do you think your siblings handled the situation as well as it sounds like you did?
That's a very good question, and I will talk about it. No. My siblings, my older siblings particularly, took it a lot harder than me, which is understandable. Yeah. They were older. They understood it a little bit better. And you could still see the effects, unfortunately. It did have a bad effect. And I think my oldest brother particularly took it the hardest. Now, the good news is he is a much stronger Christian nowadays. And I can tell he has a really strong faith. But it's definitely a struggle. I mean, he's the oldest sibling. You know, if you want to say anyone represents the rest of us, he's kind of the one who does. So he definitely took that burden hard. But not just him, but yeah, the other ones always, they took it really, really hard too. Kind of a strained relationship with my father for many of them, which thankfully has healed a lot better now. Not we're all adults. Time does heal such things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, there was a lot of remaining issues that still remained, and it hit my sister as well, who's the youngest out of all of us. But again, I credit faith for helping with that.
Did it give you guys a new opportunity to kind of grow closer together?
Yes, actually. I've never been that close to my siblings, just compared to other. I love them, they love me, but that's just kind of been our relationship. We're not like buddy with each other.
Yeah.
So whenever I've seen that was always kind of weird to me. Like, oh, like these guys are like brothers and they're like best friends. Like that was just always weird to me. Cause it's like, I would never say my brother was my best friend. I love them.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, that's just not our relationship. That's just not how our dynamic is.
Family.
Yeah.
And, I wish it was. I think that would be awesome. And I'm hoping if I have a family someday that I can instill, like, get along with your siblings. Like, these are not just your siblings. Let them be your friends too. Let them be people you can get close to. But that just wasn't something that we had. But no, nowadays I could say things got progressively better. Because after the divorce, there definitely was kind of like a, whoa, what just happened? And things are weird. Mm-hmm. You know, tensions with everything. But you know, nowadays when I see them all over holidays, it's, you know, I can talk to them, I can converse with them, and it's nice. Things definitely improved.
That's great.
One thing that definitely helps is long car rides, where it's just like you and one of your brothers or sister or whatever, and you're just, I mean, what are you gonna do? Sit there quietly.
You can sit in silence.
You
for
could,
a while,
or you could actually talk.
Yeah,
and I prefer doing that.
Definitely. So here's something. Do you think that part of you, like, because you said that initially you were thinking about being a pastor, right? Like in your youth, maybe before high school. And then do you think that there was maybe a part of you where you got to high school and everyone's encouraging you that you'd be a great pastor? Was there any part of you that's like, well, if everybody wants me to do it, maybe that's why I don't want to do it. Maybe I want to be my own thing.
There actually was some. It's funny you asked that. This is just a weird thing. You know, you don't ever really like hearing like, we like hearing compliments, but we also kind of don't. You know, where it's just like, oh, yeah, no, that's not true. You try to kind of
push it off
a little bit. And I was kind of always that way too. I was a pretty obedient kid, very obedient kid. I didn't like getting in trouble. So if a parent ever was just like, "Oh, Malachi, you're such a good kid. Like you're so respectful," I would always like, all
right,
like, please don't embarrass me. Like, please don't say that. Fun story, actually. Let me tell you this one. This one's just silly. I was like, I don't know, 7 or something like that. And we had there was this hill that we went sledding on. And we were with some church friends of ours. And it was these girls who were the same age as my brothers. So we knew them fairly well. And we went sledding with them. And it was like these 2 girls who were family friends of ours, they dropped their sled. It was like this, it was one of the inflatable ones. It's like round.
Yeah.
And they dropped it down the hill. And I was down there, so I caught it and I was bringing it up. And they were just like, "Oh, that's so nice of you. That's so sweet of you." And I was like, "What?" And I dropped it back down the hill. That's just because they said what they said.
Wow. You weren't supposed to acknowledge that.
So, no, there was a little bit where it was just like, okay, everyone wants me to be one. Maybe I should be something else just to kind of be like, no, I'm my own guy. I'm going to be different. So there was a little bit of that, which I think is kind of foolish, now in hindsight to think about.
That's always kind of my concern with like the high school age is because as people in ministry, as people at MLC and people serving God, like as called workers, as pastors and teachers, like we obviously want to encourage people, but I do feel like for some people there's like a fine line, because if you over encourage it and that's like all you're throwing at them, I feel like as high schoolers you're in that rebellious age where like you want to be your own person. So if everybody's telling you to do this, then maybe you're just going to be like, I want to do my own thing. Like I want to prove people wrong. Like, I don't know.
It almost feels like you're losing your agency because other people are telling you to do it instead of you deciding to do it, which is, it's a lie, but it sounds so much like the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can be totally your decision and people can be pushing you toward it. It can both be true.
I know a lot of my friends back in high school that ended up not coming to MLC to pursue a career in ministry. That was actually probably the number one reason why, other than maybe just a genuine lack of interest in pursuing ministry, was they were just told by everybody to go and be a pastor, go and be a teacher, and they just wanted to be their own person. So it's a tough thing. Like I honestly don't know what the best way to handle that is, and there's not going to be a one size fits all, but it's just an interesting discussion, I think.
It is. I guess the way I look at it is being sincere about it.
Yeah.
Being real about it, I think was helpful for me.
If you're the one giving encouragement?
If you're the one giving encouragement,
okay.
I think it would be helpful if you're sincere about it. Not saying you should do this, but just saying, hey, I think you might be good at this.
So did you get the impression that people weren't being, like they were pushing you toward it because they're like, we need more pastors, instead of like, these are your gifts?
No, I do think it was sincere with all these people.
Okay.
That it wasn't just, go there because we need more. It was, no, we actually think we want you to do this.
Okay.
I can think of all the people who have encouraged me, and I can say, yeah, it was definitely that.
But like when you were a kid and people told you what a good kid you were, you knew it was because they wanted you to be a good kid and not because they were like, I don't know, happy with who you were becoming, but because for them, it was easier if you were a good kid.
I don't know what it was with me as a kid. I just didn't like being complimented in that way. Like I felt like it was embarrassing. Yeah. No one likes being embarrassed, but I considered it embarrassing. So I just was like, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I'll push your sled down the hill. So you think
That's
twice
so
before
savage.
you do it.
I would rather be the jerk than the good kid, So you are the youngest professor tutor on campus. This is your first year in ministry. What has it been like to finally be a called worker after 8 years of training at MLC and then the seminary afterwards?
It's really humbling. It's really, really profound. 8 years, it goes by really fast, but it is still a long time. And I just remember after receiving my call and after graduating, just kind of thinking like, oh, I am no longer a student. That's just such a weird feeling. But no, it feels great. I love what I do. I love being a pastor, even though I've only been one for a few months. It's such a cool thing. Do I feel different? No. Like, I still feel the same. Like, I'm the same person. It's not like something changed in me or anything like that. But it certainly is a humbling thing to be able to go to God in prayer and say, Lord, help me serve you in the ministry that you have given me. And thank you for giving me this opportunity and this call. And it's so cool this semester, just working with everyone, getting to know everyone. It's just been so cool to develop these relationships with all these students and think like, yeah, these are the people I get to serve. These are the people that I get to love. And how cool of an opportunity it is that God thought this was the place that I should be at this time.
Well, you said before that when you were here at MLC, you didn't really interact with the tutors all that much. And was that one of your kind of expectations coming in, or did you know that you wanted to be more part of the student culture?
I knew I wanted to be more part of the student culture because that's just who I am. I like interacting with people. I like getting to know people. And I don't want to be seen as someone who is high and mighty and above. I want to be seen as someone who is down to earth and gets along with people. And I want to be someone who is approachable, whom you can go to and talk about anything with. And I do mean anything with. What's going on? What's some of the baggage you have going on? I want to be the type of person that they can say, I can go to this guy and talk to him knowing I'm not going to get judged. But I'm going to hear what I need to hear. I'm going to be pointed to the gospel. And I feel the best way of doing that is I got to get to know everybody as best as I can. I got to get to talk to people as best as I can. I got to sit by them. I got to converse with them. I got to give them my full attention when I'm talking with them. When I preach my chapels, I want to preach it not to an aloof crowd, but to people who I know are going through various things. And so I want to make applications that are actually applicable to you guys. I want to have law that's specific to you guys. I want to have gospel that is specific to you guys. But the only way I can do that is getting to know all you guys and getting to hear all you guys, getting to see what's going on, getting my hands dirty if I need to be, letting you guys see I'm not better than you guys. I'm not above you guys just because I got a call. I'm a servant of Christ, just like you guys are training to be. And so for me, I wanted to have the attitude of, I want the students to know that I'm someone they can go to, that I'm someone who they can talk to like a normal person. Respecting the authority.
Yeah.
Because there are moments where I have to be the authority figure. But knowing that they can talk to me about just about anything. And that I'm a normal person just like them. The reason I didn't talk to the tutors much wasn't because of anything they did. That was just who I was. I just didn't really need the help, I felt like. Except when I did. But I would always say hi to them. I would always, if I had a chance to talk with them, I would talk to them. But I would talk to them very much so about normal things. Because that's just kind of what I did. And so I didn't develop close relationships with them, but fine relationships with them. But I did notice with some of them that some of them just kind of, they would do what they had to do. They would teach, they would preach. And I don't know what they all did behind the scenes because it's not like I was hanging out with them. But it seemed like it was a little bit more, in some cases, sometimes a little bit more aloof. And so I didn't want to do that. I wanted people to know that I was someone they can go to for just about anything and talk to about anything.
That's important. That's really cool. I admire that passion or need to try and be with people and immerse yourself in their day to day. And I think that's really good for being a pastor, and almost vital for people that are going to be a pastor, because a lot of times I think you look at, like, congregants will look at a pastor as like he's way up here. He knows everything about the Bible, and I can ask him any questions about the Bible, but he's not like a real person. You know? I
know what you mean. And can I give a good example of someone who demonstrated this well who's a good influence on me. My bishop, my supervising pastor, Pastor Stephen Hellwig. I vicared for him in Omaha, Nebraska. He is the most, if I had to say this person's my hero. Pastor Hellwig is my hero. I want to be like Steve Hellwig. And this guy has been the most profound person in my life when it comes to shaping who I am as a pastor and as a Christian and as a man. This guy, I love him. And I mean that so much. And I've told him that so many times, like, thank you for everything you've done. Pastor Hellwig was a normal person when he interacted with everybody. He had a great family life. He loved his wife. He has great children who are fantastic people. I became friends with them. And I saw him interact with his parishioners like a normal person. He would hang out with them. He would go to restaurants with them. He would go to bars with them. He would hang out at their houses. He would invite them over to his house, and they would just have a good time. They would just talk to each other. They would just get along with each other. It was great. And so I've heard some people say, like, you can't be friends with your parishioners. That's a load of garbage, in my opinion. Absolute load of garbage. Now, I'm saying that even before I met Pastor Hellwig, that was kind of my opinion before that anyway, because that's just, I'm going to be me as a pastor. And I like making friends, and I like talking to people about anything. So I was going to do it anyway. But, you know, seeing Pastor Hellwig did it gave me more encouragement that it's just okay to do such things. And it's okay to act like a normal person and not like yes, you are still pastor. But that doesn't mean you are always preaching sermons to them, basically, throughout your entire life and your interactions with them.
But is there some merit to the fact that, like, the closer you get to someone on a friendship level, the harder it is to maintain that authority? I mean, and maybe being a pastor, you don't want to necessarily embody the idea of, like, extreme authority, but there is still some kind of spiritual authority that you need to maintain.
There is, and I think you can maintain that while being friends with everyone. Now, there are certain things you don't want to tell parishioners, even the ones you're close to. I think you got to be smart about certain things. I'm not going to dwell into what, but I think you can figure it out. You can use your common sense when it comes to such things. But in my mind, how do you get to know people well? It's you actually get to know them and talk to them and develop relationships with them. Oh, that's what I intend to do. That's what I've been trying to do here. But I mean, again, I've gotten to know all you guys so well, and I've loved it. But there's certain things I'm not going to tell you guys just as students, because I know it's like there is that dynamic, and I can't be open about everything. But you can be open about many things.
Right. But do you think it's hard for people to be open with a pastor if he's not willing to be as open with them? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think
it's almost like not reciprocal.
I think so. And now people know that the pastor is someone you can go to who is safe. At least I would hope people would know that. But maybe for some people, they don't realize that. And so in my mind, being down to earth and more open with people, not about super serious things, but just kind of about any regular things, makes it a little bit more easy for people to do so. And that's what I've been trying to do with all you guys as best as I can is, all right, you can see that I talk about just about anything. So then you guys can know, okay, you can talk to me about just about anything.
So the balance, I guess, that I see in there is you want to be open and honest with people. And that means sharing, like, would you be a proponent of sharing maybe like some weaknesses that you have or like some struggles that you go through? Is that what you'd say? Or do you think that would be pushing it a little bit?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to share them. Not every single thing. Like, personal struggles with particular sins. Like, I'm not going to put that all out there. Former struggles, sure. But, like, if there's something going on, like, that's too personal, I'm not going to let that known. But, like, things about, like, my health, things about the divorce, things about broken relationships or anything like that, yeah, I'm going to share that type of stuff if the time is right. I'm not like I'm just going to open up a conversation saying, hey, my parents are divorced.
Yeah.
But if I think the moment's right, yeah, I'll talk about that. I was very open about that with kids vicar year who I knew had divorced parents whose parents were going through some issues. Like, I have divorced parents as well. I didn't have the best family life as well. And here I am. God helped me through it.
What would you say? So you talk about how much you admire and respect your bishop, your supervising pastor during your training year. How do you balance in ministry taking the things that you really love and respect about your peers, and maybe particularly those in authority, so like your professors, your pastors that you've had in the parish? How do you take some of the elements that they do really well and apply it to yourself without also like compromising who you are as a person?
That's a really good question. Be you. You're not trying to be other people. I'm not trying to be Steve Helwig. I'm trying to be Malachi Mortenson. But there's a lot of things that Pastor Helwig does that's like, yeah, I want to imitate that. This man is a guy who's very much so orderly and has control over what's going on. Humanly speaking, obviously God's in control of all things, but this is a guy who has stuff put together. And it's just like I want to, much like him, have that good balance between good pastor, approachable pastor, good administrator, and great family life. And it's just one of those where it's like, yeah, I want to imitate that and that I want to accomplish that. But I'm not going to imitate Pastor Helwig in everything he does, like all his mannerisms. He's him, I'm me. I'm still going to be very much so me. And I'm still going to let my personality be my personality. But there are a lot of tidbits that I will get from certain people who I've interacted with. Pastor Clark Schultz from high school, who had a big impact on me. This man was super approachable. And why was he approachable? Because he was just himself. He was a big comic book guy and like superhero guy. Like, he loved Batman. Awesome. He had this huge Batman and Superman mural in his classroom. And I always thought that was awesome. I'm not even that big of a Batman, Superman, superhero guy. I'm not really big into that stuff. But just the fact that he was like being himself made me realize, hey, you can do that as a pastor. Like, you can have a personality. So that was a big impact on me, where it's like, I'm going to be me. I'm going to have my personality. And I'm going to let that show throughout it. But it's not just pastors I've interacted with and teachers I've interacted with. There were a lot of lay members, especially during my vicar year, who I was like, man, I want to be like that guy when it comes to just how he acts. Two guys in particular, I'll name drop. One of the closest guys I got to become friends with during my vicar year, his name is Jeremy Correll. I believe he's in his late 40s. He has a wife and a couple kids. This man was awesome. He was a guy who was super, super fun to talk to, super approachable. He takes his faith super seriously, and he's had his own struggles that he's gone through as well. But this was a man who is probably the most generous man I've ever met. And he had this phrase that always stuck with me, because anytime I would go out with him, he would always buy my dinner. He would always buy my drink. And one time he spent quite a lot of money because, we went out to this cider place near Omaha. It was in Ashland, Nebraska. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a great cider place. Jeremy and I were at this place for a pretty long time, and he bought me not just my drinks, but he was like, hey, you want to buy some cider for home? And he bought me like probably about $60 worth of cider from just myself to bring home. And then afterwards, we walked around Ashland just looking at the churches in the area, because again, we just like doing that. And then he went to my apartment and we talked for another couple hours. So we spent like 8 hours together. That's just crazy. Chatting. But anyway, I asked him about his generosity, because I was like, Jeremy, you're probably the most generous man I have ever met. You are so kind to me. And not just to me, but to anybody around you. He's just always buying people things and just being generous with his money. He's a generous giver. And he had a quote that stuck with me. He said, it's all God's money. And I was like, man,
that's cool.
That needs to be one of the mantras I need to have when it comes to giving. It's all God's money. He's the one who gave it to me. I'm just giving him back a portion of what he's given to me. Or if I'm helping someone else out or buying something for someone else, I'm just using the money, God's money, to be a blessing to someone else, because it's all his anyway. So that really stuck with me. The other guy who had a huge impact on me lay member. He was our church president. His name was Tragan Beck. And guy in his 40s, wife, couple kids, fantastic man, fantastic family. Just an overall positive guy, no matter what was going on. Not in a campy, like, ridiculous way, but in a real sincere, like, he had a good outlook of things going on. Whether it was something bad or good, he just had a great attitude. And he was always just a good guy to talk to, a pleasant guy to talk to. And he didn't let bad things get the best of him. And I was just like, I want that to kind of be the case. Because I'll often, if something's kind of going on or something's affecting me, it'll show sometimes. Not that I'm irritable or anything like that, but it hits. And I was like, I want to kind of be like him. Or he just has this good overall attitude of what's going on and doesn't let it affect how he interacts with everyone. And so that was something that I was like, I want that in my life. And so I've prayed, Lord, help me be like Tragan Beck. Help me be like Jeremy Carell. Help me be like Steve Helwig in these areas.
Yeah.
And it helps when you have a face to remember. That's the quality I want to have in my life too.
Sure. Yeah. Something I thought about when you were talking about the previous guy, the guy who was very generous.
Jeremy, yeah.
What do you have to say to, like, people that are like college students like us who are pretty broke, and every penny that we have is going towards school or just like our cars that are breaking and things like that? Because we look at these people and we want to be like them too. We want to be generous and be able to impact the lives of others in a positive way. But we really don't have the means to do that. So I don't know. What comfort do you have for us?
The comfort is it's more than just money you can be generous with. First of all, there is no required amount for you to give. God leaves that up to your direction. Cheerfully give whatever it is. And if it's just, hey, it's just $5 this week, it's just $5 that week. Just give with a cheerful heart. There's no required amount. But here's the thing when it comes to giving, it's not just money. Giving your time, giving your energy, you can think of a whole bunch of other different things that you can give. And you guys right now are giving your time for studying for the ministry. And people are aware of that. This is, especially for pastors, this is a lot of time.
Yeah.
You are generously giving of your time, of your energy, of your talents to serve in the public ministry. That is giving. You guys are giving, and you're doing it cheerfully. You're not complaining like, oh, no, I got a bunch more years yet to go. And maybe you have those moments, but like overall, you're not complaining, you know, or, oh, great, I got to study this. I got to study this. I got to study this. You're doing it. And you're dedicating your life to service in the church, knowing I'm not going to get paid a ton. I'll get paid enough. I'm not going to get paid a ton. I could have done something that I could have made more in. I think that's a generous usage of your time, usage of your talents, usage of your abilities.
I like that. I don't know if I've ever heard it described quite like that before. It's a cool perspective, I think. Yeah. So in your first year of ministry, there's no real way to like fully prepare yourself for what you're going to encounter in ministry. So I was wondering, what are some things that have happened to you thus far that have been maybe similar to what you were expecting coming in, and what have been some things that have been a little bit different than you were expecting?
That's a good question. The preaching schedule and the teaching schedule have been what I expected, in the sense of, okay, I have my classes and that's gone about it as what I've expected, in the sense of like, good, I've enjoyed it. And just how it's gone overall with the college students. And preaching in chapel has been what I expected. Okay, it has to be shorter than a regular sermon, which has been good because it's gotten me to be better about being more concise. So that's been about what I expected. One thing that surprised me, even though I feel like I should have expected it, was the amount of counseling I get to do. Just informal counseling. It's not like I'm not a professional counselor, but I can do pastoral counseling. And just the amount of pastoral counseling I've been able to do, it seems like I have 3 to 4 students every week who come to me. and need some sort of form of counseling. Some serious, some not as serious. It just depends. And that's been something that really has been a huge, like, wow. Like, I'm grateful that God has given me that opportunity. So I've really grown when it comes to counseling. And because sometimes you're afraid, like, what if I don't have the right words to say? Here's the thing. God's going to give you the right words to say. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. So how comfortable I've gotten with doing that, with counseling and learning from what happened before previous events. Like, oh, that went well. That was something I probably shouldn't have said, or it just didn't have an impact, or I was trying to rely too much on my own self rather than going to God's word, or I talked too much. I should have let them do more talking. One of the big things you learn about counseling is listen.
Yeah.
You should not be doing most of the talking. And sometimes that's hard if you're a gabber like I am. Just keep your mouth shut and just let them do the talking and asking pointed questions. So that's been something I've really grown with. One thing which I was dreading to do, and again, coming from a divorced family, conflict and confrontation is not something I enjoy. It's not something I like. Because when I see conflict, when I see confrontation, I think, oh, this is bad. Now, here's the thing. Conflict and confrontation is not always bad. But when you come from a family where you saw that a lot, it hits you. Where it's like, oh, what if this destroys the good relationship I've built? And one thing I've really grown with here is just being more comfortable with the uncomfortable, comfortable with, I have to approach this person and I have to talk about what they did. Whether it's bad, really bad, or not so bad, I have to get comfortable. Hey, I got to get this guy out of bed and bring him somewhere because he's still sleeping yet. And I have to be the guy who has to be annoying, and I have to knock on his door, open it up, and shake him up, which is not something I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a lot more comfortable with the uncomfortable in that sense. So that's been something I've really been glad about, because I think God knew that wasn't something I enjoyed doing. And so now I'm in a place where it's like, all right, I got to be comfortable doing that. Also growing in patience. Just one thing that I've always had to get better with has been patience with people. I have high expectations in the sense of I expect that you guys are training for the called, who are training for the called ministry, are going to act like people training for the called ministry. That doesn't mean you're not going to like still be college students yet. Like you'll still do the typical stuff college students do. That's not my issue, but just I expect maturity. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I have to remind myself, not everyone is like me, or not everyone is like the students that you want them to be like. Because again, everyone has their own things they're going through, own things they're struggling with, own maturity levels they're growing through, just like I did. And I have to be patient, remember, hey, maybe that's not something I would have done when I was a student, but I had my own things that I struggled with. And I am in no place to be like, oh, well, this person's just not going to make it. I have to be patient and remember, hey, I had my own things I struggled with, just like this person's struggling with so-and-so or whatever that might be. And so growing in patience has been another big thing that I've grown with here that I've been very thankful for.
Yeah, I could definitely understand that working with college students. I think something you said about kind of being avoidant of conflict and you're not super comfortable with it. I see that pastors, in my opinion, they're seen as like nice guys. They're supposed to be, give you the gospel and show you Jesus. But yeah, that side where you have to address something that's uncomfortable is somewhat daunting for me too. But something that I've kind of tried to remember is like, okay, maybe I don't want to address this right now, but then what is the cost? Like what am I sacrificing in the future if I don't address it now? Mm-hmm. And that kind of pushes me to be like, okay, well, you might be uncomfortable now, but it's not going to be as destructive as it would be if I just let it keep going.
Mm-hmm. One thing I've learned that's been helpful is if there's a need that needs to be addressed like this, you just got to do it right away. And for me, sometimes that means even I like to think things through before I do it. and think about what I have to say, because I want to make sure I say the right things.
Yeah.
But sometimes for a moment like this, the more I wait, the less I want to do it. And so it's like, all right, I just got to do this now, get it over with,
Take a leap,
and just say what I need to say. And what will happen will happen. I will learn from it. Maybe it will go well, maybe it won't, but I'll learn from it. And so I've learned when it comes to that, you just got to do it right away.
Yeah, that's the tough part, though. Maybe it will go well, but maybe it won't.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. If it doesn't, that's okay. You learn from it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're not good at your job. It just means, hey, you didn't do it the right way. Oh, well, now you're going to do it the right way next time, or it's going to be better the next time. Because the more you do it, the more experience you're going to get with it, the more you're going to know how to handle it.
And not maybe like doing it, but not doing it exactly the right way is still better than not doing it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a prayer that one of our professors told us in ACR, Professor Mark Paushin said that a prayer that he says to himself every morning is, things are going to happen to me today. Some things I can control, most things I can't. Give me the strength to deal with them. And I feel like in ministry, that's just so true, where things are going to happen in ministry and you like to think that you can control it and that if you just handle it in this certain way that things are going to be resolved. But in actuality, it's in God's hands. So just God giving you the strength to actually go out and have those difficult conversations with people and to take the uncomfortable steps that we're not necessarily used to is just so important. And that takes, God willing, a lot of the pressure off of ourselves, I think. So
it's a good prayer. I'll have to use that.
It comes to mind for me, yeah, often.
Yeah. We talked about maybe some of this already. What are some of the things that you want to improve the most on in your ministry going forward, would you say?
It's a good question. For me, I kind of brought it up with the being comfortable with the uncomfortable and conflict and being patient, especially when you have to work on yourself in the sense of like, hey, they might not know this, even though you think they should, or they might not be as mature as you think they should be. So working on those such things. Another big thing to work on for myself that I really hope I get better with, and something I pray about, is contentment. Being content. It's hard. Being content with the situation you're in life, with the things going on in life, whether it's the call you have, whether it's the vocations you have, whether it's the situation you currently find yourself in. Sometimes it's hard. That's one thing that I want to make sure I just continue to grow with and get better with. You know, you have a lot of moments where you're thinking, well, why isn't this going the way I hope it would? Or, you know, why am I not there, or something like that? Yeah, I'll just be personal. For me, it was getting married. You know, I had you don't mind me revealing this?
Go for it.
I had a serious relationship when I was here at MLC as a student, and it unfortunately ended up not working out when I was at seminary. And that was devastating to me, because this was a person I really loved a lot. And, you know, in hindsight now, it's like, well, what happened. You know, it's okay. Sure. You know, it just didn't work out. And that's totally fine. But when you see a lot of your good friends married already, it kind of hits you like, oh, is something wrong with me? Is this bad? And it's like, well, no, God had some things he had to teach you. God had some things you had to learn about. And it's funny because now I say it in hindsight, I'm glad it happened. Because now I get to be here and I get to serve you guys here. And that wouldn't have been the case if that would have worked out. I got sent to a place I got sent to in Omaha. It may not have happened if that would have worked out. I have a greater appreciation for marriage and the family now that I don't think I had when I was a 22, 23-year-old, you know? So, but it is one of those things that hits you. It's like, oh, a lot of your friends your age are married already, or are in pretty serious relationships, or have families already even. And is there something wrong with me that that's not the case? Or like, am I a failure because of that? And it's like, no, because you're in the position God wants you to be in right now. And so contentment has been something I pray for. Help me be content.
And you've seen it a lot at this school where it's like the emphasis placed on being in a relationship is so huge. Can you speak to the lie that once I get this, then I'll be content?
Oh, absolutely, I can. Contentment is found in Christ. You have faith in Christ. You have real peace with God. You have real hope for eternal life. You have real joy even when things aren't going well. Because the most important thing, something you can't fix, has been fixed. And it was God himself who did it. Your identity isn't in what you have, whom you're married to, your success, earthly success, or whatever it might be, even what your job and vocation is. Your identity is God's beloved child. When you were baptized, God marked you as his. Christ himself clothed you with himself. The Holy Spirit made your heart a dwelling place, a temple. Your identity is God's child. That's what matters. That's where real fulfillment and real contentment comes from. Not from what you have, not from whom you're with, not from any of that outward stuff. As good as some of it is, but whom God made you. That's what your identity is. And it's tempting to find your identity in other things. Mm-hmm. Even good things. Things.
Yeah. I know it's been tempting for me to, like, we're 2 weeks away from Christmas break right now. And it's been tempting for me to think about, well, once I get everything done and I can be done with my classes, then I can, breathe and be more relaxed or at peace or content. But then the more I think about it, it's like, it's not going to change once you're on break. It's really not.
No, things are going to happen. There's never going to be a time where it's like, I am happy with everything and I will remain happy with everything. There's going to be trouble. There's going to be suffering. There's going to be hardship. And so where do you find your help? Where do you find your support? It comes from God. It comes from the real rock, not from these other things, even though they might be good. It comes from the fact that Christ himself took on flesh and died for you and rose from the dead and made you his. That's where you find satisfaction, contentment, and joy. Because that's the only thing that actually brings it.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's the only thing that's never going to change either. I mean, you put your hope and your faith in worldly stuff like your health or your family, what's going to happen if that gets taken away? Then your contentment is gone and then you're left with nothing. But Christ is always going to be there. So
I think a verse that stuck out to me is from the Sermon on the Mount. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. And God will deem what those other things are. But seek first his kingdom.
That's big. God's going to test out what those things that you need are. I never heard that interpretation before. I like that.
That's awesome. Usually we end with the question, what is God teaching you right now? But I feel like you kind of answered that with contentment. So I think I'd maybe like to ask the devotional prayer life. What is your devotional / prayer life? How does that look? What are some things that work for you? What are some things that maybe haven't worked for you in the past? Just kind of speak to that maybe.
So what's worked for me is it's good to have a consistent pattern. It's good to have a consistent time when you do it. For me, it's the morning. First thing I do after I shower and get myself ready is do a devotion and pray. And the thing that I found is helpful is you got to set aside time where this is devoted to God and you're not going to be distracted by other things. And it doesn't have to be long. It can be 15 minutes. It can be even smaller than that. But for me, I have found that at least half an hour to an hour of dedicated time in God's word. And here's the thing. If you're thinking, I don't have enough time for that, think about some of the things you do make time for. Do you have enough time to play video games? You have enough time to do a devotion. Do you have enough time to hang out with your friends, which is a good thing? You have enough time to do a devotion. Do you have enough time to whatever? You could insert whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have enough time to do a devotion. your devotional life should be a priority, and you got to view it as a priority. Because if you view it as a priority, you're going to do it. View it as much of a priority as eating and drinking, which you need to do to survive. You need your personal devotion life to spend time in God's word, to be fed by the bread of life, to drink living water for your faith to survive. I think that's a helpful way of looking at it, is this is a priority. It's not an option, it's a priority. So when you view it that way, you realize, yeah, this is something I need to do and want to do, because I want to be surrounded by God's word. For me, what's worked is after I'm done showering and getting dressed, I'll come out here, I'll make my coffee, and I'll spend time in God's word. And for me, I've noticed that variety seems to be a helpful thing for me. Which for some that might not be. Maybe they want to be consistent with like, all right, I'm going to read through like a book, or I'm going to have like a devotional booklet that I go through. However you do, it's fine. It's up to you. Sure. For me though, I like variety. So some days I'll read through a portion of scripture, maybe a chapter of a book, or some days I'll read through a devotional book. So something that's made already. Okay. Some days I'll just listen to sermons of like pastors I know. Yeah. And I'll just take notes. And then I'll apply whatever the application was for myself. So I have found that variety has been helpful for me, but consistent times and consistent, like, dedicated amounts of times for that. One thing I've struggled with, and just because some days are later than others, just depending on situations, is I don't always get up at the same time. And that's something I want to work on. I want to be a little bit more self-disciplined when it comes to that. Yeah. Is, all right, I want to get up at a particular time so I can do this. Because some days I don't. Just depending on what time I got to bed the night before with things that might happen. And part of that is that, but part of it's also my own fault, where it's like, all right, my alarm went off and I decided to get some more sleep, but I should have just got my butt off and and did the devotion and got up and started everything. But regardless of that, I still do the devotion because I need to.
How do you decide like which format you're going to use that day? Is it just what you feel?
It's just what I feel, and honestly, that's not a good way of doing it. I think you should probably make a more consistent schedule, and I should make it more consistent, where it's like, all right, these days I'm doing this, the next days I'm doing this, instead of just like what I feel. It's worked, but I want
to get something out of it.
It's still, for me, it's kind of one of those self-discipline things. I should be a little more self-disciplined on that.
I mean, if the alternative is just not doing a devotion at all, I still think that, just doing what you're feeling, I mean, that's definitely better, I'd say. But I hear you.
I'll get into what I do with prayer too after that. So here's how I view prayer, and I think maybe this might be helpful, is the eternal God who created all things, who has always existed, who is omnipotent, all powerful, all knowing, and took on flesh for you. This God who is so much more powerful, so vast beyond what we can even think, invites you to talk to him. Wants you to talk to him. Doesn't need you to talk to him. Wants you to talk to him about anything. And he's going to listen. He promises to. Anything, yeah. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open for you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, just what a profound, amazing thing we have, that we get to pray to God about anything. And so take advantage of that. Hold God to his promises, that he's going to hear you. So that helps when it just comes to, prayer is just such a cool thing we get to do. And what I've been doing lately, which has been helpful, is I think, okay, well, what do I need to confess sins wise? What did this convict me of? Devotion. What did this devotion, make me thankful for? It's kind of, what did this, and then how do I want to live now? Based off what this devotion has, sanctification as well. How does this affect my life? Knowing that I'm saved, knowing that I've been justified. Now, how do I show good fruits and produce good fruits? And then after that, I'll pray for others who I know are going through something hard, specific people sometimes just general, hey, be with the students as they go about what they're going today. My friends at seminary as they go about what they're going today, or whatever it might be. And then I'll pray for some personal things as well that are going on. Mm-hmm. But I'll have all these different things in prayer. But that's usually the consistent pattern I try to use. I call it confession, thanksgiving, sanctification, others, self.
I like that.
Yeah. I think it's really fascinating just how versatile prayer is for everybody. Like, everybody's prayer life just looks so completely different. And it's just totally up to what works best for them. And I think that's just so cool.
I'll say this as well. I like to do my own prayers, but I also have some memorized prayers that I use. The Lord's Prayer I use, and Luther's morning prayer I use before I begin my devotion. And another great prayer that I want to use, and I recommend using if you're ever in a time of trouble, time of stress, time of something bad's going on, is a really simple prayer. I learned this actually from a podcast I was listening to where Jonathan Rumi, he's the actor who plays as Jesus in The Chosen, which, by the way, highly recommend if you haven't seen it. It's a wonderful show. He uses this prayer, and that stuck with me. Jesus, I surrender myself to you. And you just say it a few times over. Jesus, I surrender myself to you. And you can make it personal. Like, Jesus, I surrender all the things that are going on to you. My fears, my anxieties, my concerns, whatever it might be. But just a simple, short, easy prayer that says so much and has a lot to unpack. Another amazing prayer, we actually heard it in chapel. Professor Thompson brought it up, is St. Patrick's breastplate. I recommend looking it up. It's a beautiful prayer, just reminding you how close Christ is to you. Christ within me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ above me, Christ below me, and it goes on like that.
Yeah.
But nice and simple, just reminding you who's in control of everything.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So memorized or from the heart. Utilize both. God gives us both options.
For sure.
Do you have any particular prayer that you wrote for yourself that you say quite often? Like we brought up Professor Paushin's prayer that he prays. Do you have something like that you do at all?
I actually don't. I don't have one that I've written for myself, but just the ones that have already been given to us or that other people have thought of. And then after that, it's just whatever comes out of my heart.
That's so cool. Prayer is just so awesome. One of the most incredible gifts God's ever given to us, for sure. Logan,
Thank you, Tutor.
Do you have anything else you want to ask? Want to get into at all?
No, I don't think so. I'm satisfied. I think this is a good one.
This was fun. I really enjoyed this, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you for being willing to come on. This was definitely a blessing for me.
Hey, thank you for doing your work. I love this, having a Christian podcast with two young guys studying to be pastors. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's good. It's especially good too if young guys kind of you guys can listen to this. Like, hey, these are stuff that we're concerned about, thinking about, talking about. And sometimes it's nice too, just to have a talk with someone about faith, just to show how profound and amazing faith is. So thank you guys for doing this. I know it's a time commitment, so thank you. I appreciate it.
It's definitely worth it. Thank you for giving us your story.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for listening.
A very powerful episode, I think. It was really cool. Thank you so much, Tutor. We really appreciate it. We know that there's other stuff you could choose to do, and it just means the world to us that you choose to come on and spend a couple hours with us talking about Christ, talking about our walk with him and how it never really ends. We're always growing, and we just really appreciate it. So with that being said, I think that we will wrap it up here, guys. But thank you for listening. Thank you for coming on again, Tutor. And we'll talk to you guys next episode. Bye.